Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week from the West Coast, first Gail Falkenthal of Community Digital News. Jacob Rivera joined us from NY. Daniel Carpio joined us live from Taiwan. Sean Newton. What's going on, ladies and gents?
Good evening, all. Getting that Christmas shopping done. All those errands. Braving the traffic. You know how it goes.
Yep. For those who are new to the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report is a live YouTube show / podcast / blog that discusses all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns boxing, we will talk about it. You want to find information about the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, one main place you want to go to, that's the blog page, P4P Boxing Report. WordPress.com is the link. Didn't mention this last week, but the Pound for Pound Boxing blog page just recently announced 2015 winner of the Black Web Blog Awards for Best Sports Blog. So I'm really happy about that. Really happy about that. Second time in 3 years, I think. Second time in 3 years. If you want to go to the right of the blog page, you will find links to find us all over the internet, all over social media, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, Twitter, Pinterest, RSS feed. You can find us on Stitcher Radio, link to find us on Flipboard Magazine, and the link for the email address, as well as the link to find us on not only Podomatic, but also on SoundCloud. Recently, I just put some stuff on SoundCloud, so you can now find the Pound for Pound Boxing Report podcast on SoundCloud. Just check us out, SoundCloud. You just do a search of boxing, or just do a search of Pound for Pound Boxing Report, POUND number 4. The number 4, POUND Boxing Report. You should be able to find us there. Well, I just put up some last few episodes up there. So let's get the show started this evening. Doing a recap of the action that took place last week. I want to focus on two main bouts in Brooklyn. First bout being the main event of that Brooklyn card. Daniel Jacobs surprising one-round stoppage over Peter Quillin in the middleweight showdown at the Barclays Center. Jacobs hurt Quillin early with the right hand, I believe, and it was basically a follow-up assault, finished off by two right hands. Had Quillin, in my opinion, badly hurt, and the fight was stopped. 85 seconds in the first round. Many folks in social media who was live tweeting the bout was surprised. I was shocked. I had Quillin winning. I thought his strength and his size would take over time. But I also said that Jacobs was the faster fighter. He was the better overall boxer. And he just took advantage of, found the opening, hit him, boom, and it was hurt. Once he got him hurt, he kept him hurt. Explosive performance. I'll go to you, Gail. Ladies first. Your impressions of the bout. How surprised were you at the outcome? Your thoughts?
You know, I wasn't really surprised to see Jacobs' name as the winner, and I gave him a slight edge. But I did not see what transpired going down. And it proves once again, and it's proved to be true many times in the past, and I need to keep reminding myself of this, that when it comes to a matchup between speed and strength, most of the time, speed kills. And that's exactly what happened. You know, for the first 45 seconds of that 85 seconds we got to see, there were only 2 punches thrown. 2 punches in the first 45 seconds as those two circled. And it was 2 jabs by Quillin. Those are the only 2 punches he landed in the entire 85 seconds of that fight. I think for whatever reason, Jacobs saw that he could get to him, he could get in there. He was either being too cautious or too tentative. He roared forward, he scored, and he just put the pedal down, and his accuracy also is what helped him in addition to his speed. Both of the killer blows that were landed were those perfectly placed rights right up to the temple where, I mean, if you hit it right, there is nothing you can do about it. I also think it was a good stoppage, as many of you were following it that night know. There was a lot of chatter about, well, you know, they should have given Quillin a chance to continue. No, there's no point in seeing a beatdown occur, especially a guy at that level. Let him live to fight another day. You know, it was going to go nowhere but downhill. Maybe he could have made it through a few more rounds, but no point to that. Really, really a good win in its spectacular fashion, and it does a lot to change the landscape among a lot of the players shifting around in the middleweight division, just making a really fun division to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go to you, Daniel. Then you can follow up Jacob and Sean. I was on your show this past weekend talking about this bout. You
Yep.
were as surprised as I was. Talk about the fight itself and to kind of piggyback on what Gail was mentioning about the ending. Some were having some issues with it. I was saying on your show that I really didn't because of the way he looked, particularly after that final right hand, the bout, which is his eyes looked like they were dancing in his head. And I just think if Jacobs would have went on a further assault, he would have really, really gotten hurt. So speak on the fight and speak on the way the ref ended the bout, which had some people trouble. And your thoughts on that?
All right, yeah. Like I said, you want to show on Sunday, and we did talk about this a lot. When it came into this fight, people were just surprised how fast it ended, because we all pretty much, I think every one of us here picked Quillin to win via knockout, but it was going to be something like in the 8th and 9th round. But what happened mainly, Jacobs was able to get through Quillin's guard real easily. He landed like the punch that really started everything. He landed a little left jab, got through his defense, got Quillin's attention, and then immediately got that right hand on the temple. And that was pretty much all she wrote, because Quillin wasn't the same after that. He tried to fight in, he tried to throw a couple of punches, but Jacobs had him right there. When it came to the stoppage, there was a lot of confusion because people are so used to, like the rules sometimes in Nevada where you can have standing 8 counts. In New York, you cannot have a standing 8 count. So even if Harvey Dock wanted to, he couldn't give Peter Quillin a 8 count because Quillin never dropped. But luckily for him, like I said, regardless of anybody trying to say Quillin should have got another chance, yeah, you said look at his eyes. He was gone. He was gone. And Harvey Dock did the right thing. He saw that Peter Quillin's body was just reacting on instinct, just standing. And thank God, like I said, he stopped the fight. And what should really silence people when it comes to this stoppage is that fact that Quillin himself had no problem with it. He said, I have no problem with the stoppage. Harvey Dock did what he needed to do. And it should be the rule always. Better to be one punch too early than one punch too late when it comes to this.
Jacob, then you, Sean. I'll meet
Yeah,
you, Mike.
can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
We hear you, man.
Seem like Jacob, you're having some technical issues with your mic. I'll go to you, Sean, and I'll go to you. What you need? You joining us right now from Trinidad. What you need? What's going on, brother? But first to you, Sean, and then you can follow up what you need. Your impressions, your thoughts on on Jacobs and his 1-round stoppage over Peter Quillin.
You know, I mean, everybody's surprised with Quillin getting caught cold so quickly in the fight, but this kind of thing happens, right? I mean, that's the whole point of the phrase "getting caught cold." You know, you get caught early, you haven't warmed up, you haven't caught any punches yet, and you get hit by a great punch. You never get a chance to regain your equilibrium. The guy attacks you hard and ends up putting the pressure on the ref to step in and stop the fight. And basically, that's what happened. For a minute, I was wondering if Jacobs was going to walk into a punch like he did with what's his face, the Latin.
Sergio Mora.
Yeah, I was thinking, fuck man, slow down, take your time. But you know, I'm not surprised that the Jacobs won. I did predict that Jacobs would win. I did think that his speed and his boxing skill was going to be too much for Quillin. I mean, Quillin, his biggest advantage has always been his size and his power. He's always been a little flat-footed, you know, a little passive, and he really showed that against Lee in a fight that he should have won. But, you know, after getting caught, he became passive. And in this fight, that's what I thought would happen. I felt that because of Jacob's speed, he would catch Quillin, and then Quillin would become a little more tentative, and then that would lead to Jacobs being able to beat him over the 12-round fight. But as we've seen, you know, he caught him quick, and he jumped on him fast, and you know, made Harvey Dock jump in and stop him. And like Daniel said, I mean, there's no standing 8 count in New York City. So this is the point where Quillin just didn't come prepared. He should have taken a knee to clear his head and give the ref the chance to give him a standing 8 count. But obviously, he was a little too shaken to use any sort of strategy and think about how he was going to cope with this. And you could see Doc, I mean, he was going to let the fight continue. But then after he looked, he went back to sort of say, okay, but something caught his eye. He took a second look and he's like, no. We better stop this because this guy's totally like not into it. I saw lots of people on the YTBC say that Quillin has big eyes. And he wasn't really that hurt. That's just his normal look. But you have to remember, Doc is like right there. He's like 2 feet in front of the guy. I mean, he can see clearly, whereas we're just watching on TV, and you know, our perspective is not nearly as clear and concise as his is. So I mean, he's the guy that's in the position to make the decision, and you can see by Quillin's reaction afterwards. It's not like he was really upset or really thought that it was stopped too quick. You know, he seemed content with what happened. So that can only lead us to think that it was probably the correct decision at this point. And if Quillin really feels like he deserves a second shot, I'm sure that this fight would easily be made into a rematch.
Now, we will talk about the future of both fighters in a little bit. I'll go to you on this one, what you need, since you were not with us last week. I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about your thoughts on this fight going in and your impressions, your reaction to what went down afterwards.
Well, first of all, shout out to everybody here. It's good to be here.
Thanks for joining us, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. First of all, when I predicted this fight, it took me a while to predict the fight because I was talking to Eric Bradley, the fight doctor, that's Master Boxing, and he was saying go with your gut, but my gut was saying nah. So I went with Quillin anyway, but if you look at my video, it said that if Danny Jacobs could box on the outside, especially, which he did, Peter Quillin actually moves quite well, I realized. It wasn't that. It was that I was looking for Quillin's stamina to kind of ebb as the rounds go on. And like what Danny Jacobs did with Caleb Truax, I expected that if Danny could just keep him at bay and come in and approach him on the inside and come back on the outside, like I said in the video, he could get the win, right? He could even get a late stoppage. So that's what I was looking at. Now, coming into this fight, and I thought Peter Quillin would win this fight for 2 reasons. One was I don't think Danny Jacobs could take his punching power, and he didn't get tested with that in this fight. And 2, I thought also that people underestimated Peter Quillin's boxing skills. He's kind of awkward. His stance is higher. Danny Jacobs has a lower stance, but the guy's tricky, right? He sets you up for that right, and he sets you up with that left hook, right? So if you underestimate Peter Quillin, you'll be in trouble, and he's quick. But what happened in this fight, actually, and even when I saw Danny Jacobs catch him, I said, whoa! I was shocked myself because what Danny Jacobs did was he was measuring him for that lead right, you know? He decided he was going to make Peter Quillin respect him early, because I said in my video, if you can get Peter Quillin to respect you early, then this fight could really move in his favor, because he's the guy that moves on the back foot pretty good, especially against Caleb Truax. I thought he was working well. Anyway, he went out there, he did what he was supposed to do, and I love that he set up that shot with a left hook. So he threw the left hook. Peter Quillin was trying to reach and block that left hook, and that opened him up for the top shot, which he caught him with. And Peter Quillin, he was a little buzzed by it, but he wasn't buzzed too badly. and then he went into the defensive shell and so on and so on and so on. Now, the thing that I noticed was Peter Quillin was actually riding the punches and so on when he came into clinch and Danny Jacobs moved back to the back. What I noticed with Danny Jacobs, he did the right thing as well, which is what I love. He didn't just come straight on at Peter Quillin. He moved to the side like Timothy Bradley would do. And not only that, he used his lead hand, he used his jabbing hand to gauge Peter Quillin. If you look at Floyd versus Andre Berto, Floyd goes to the side of Andre Berto, gauges him with the lead hand. So you take your forearm and you rest it against your opponent's neck, right? And you're on weak side. What I mean by weak side, simply put, I'm to the left of the guy where he can't counter me without having to try and go over my jabbing hand, right, which is resting on him. And so when he was landing those overhand rights, he landed two really good, no, he landed one left hook and a really good overhand right. When he landed that overhand right, which stunned Peter Quillin, it was because Peter Quillin was coming up from after he dipped with the punch, he rode the punch, and then he was coming back up to try and clinch, and he caught and he blocked him with the lead hand, right, to keep him in place, and then he threw that overhand right over the lead hand, which caused him to get hit in the temple shot that stunned him. And I looked at it, and the referee jumped in right after he started, after that lead right, and he stumbled all over the place, regrouped himself, and I was going back to fight, but by then the referee had stopped the fight. Now, the thing I had with that was this, all right? Now, I knew it was a everybody, I think most people will understand, I don't know if everybody will understand, but that was a premature stoppage. But here's the thing. Be that as it may, all right? Be that as it may, you have to understand in the aftermath of the Pritchard Cologne and so on, people are going to be, the ref would be looking at safety first, okay? Now, having said that, though, it was a premature stoppage on my end because I looked at it a couple of times. I guess the immediate reaction of most people would have been, hey, man, how you could just stop the fight like that? And then, of course, when they looked at the reviews and so on, they still may have mixed opinions about it. In my opinion, he was stunned by the temple shot. That was a shot that stunned him. There were three shots that troubled him. One was the left hook, right? He was still composed, and the other one was the temple shot, and the first shot where he got caught over the top with his eyes closed after the left hook, right?
Yeah.
And I liken that fight onto Floyd Mayweather versus Shane Mosley. I know it's a little different. There are different circumstances, different things, but still, nonetheless, it was the same kind of shot. It was an overhand right. Shane Mosley landed on Floyd. Of course, Floyd immediately clinched him. The same hand that he threw the overhand right with, Floyd caught it underneath his elbow, his right elbow, right? And the second shot was a temple shot. The only difference is Floyd, he was throwing a left hook when that temple shot hit him. So he actually rolled with the punch. So it kind of took some of the steam off of it. But again, Floyd was woozy leg for a good portion of that round, even though he was walking down Shane Mosley. And I think the same thing happened with Peter Quillin. He basically was buzzed second, regrouped himself, and he was ready to go. But the ref called it off. Now, this sets up for a good rematch. I don't know when the rematch will ever happen, but it will set up for a good rematch because I think Peter Quillin was going to ride out that. What I wanted to see was if the ref didn't interrupt the play, what would have happened when Danny Jacobs caught him with that overhand right? I would have loved to see what Danny Jacobs would have follow up on that and see if he could have gotten Peter Quillin out of there or something. Because Peter Quillin, shoot, man, he got hit flush with a temple shot, full momentum, overhand right, and that motherfucker stood up. I was like, damn, I was like, this motherfucker bad.
But I don't think he was there all the way to push back somewhat. I don't think he was there all the way.
I would say he was buzzed. That means his equilibrium was still off, even when he was standing up, bouncing up and down. But when it comes to being out, he wasn't out. He wasn't out on his feet at all. I disagree with that. Anybody saying he was out on his feet, a guy who's out on his feet, not only doesn't he know where he is, but his body posture is a guy slumps over when he's out on his feet, right? A guy who gets buzzed, their equilibrium is off. That's a different story. And even when his equilibrium was off, he was looking at Danny Jacobs, which told me he was there. But what I have a problem with is the ref jumping in after that overhand right. I think he thought Peter Quillin was going to go down with the punch, So he said, hey, no more. You know what I mean? But he should have let that fight ride right there, because then Danny Jacobs, if he was to get his win, he would have gotten a definitive win right there. And I don't think Peter Quillin would have gotten badly damaged. But as they say, better to err on the side of, seeing a guy fight another day than something bad happens. But like a lot of people realize, if that was to happen in any other fight, the Miura versus Vargas fight and many other fights where guys were out on their feet, Andy Lee fight even, you kind of take away from the guy being able to show what he's made of. So I think that's where Danny Jacobs was saying, I would have preferred if he let the champ go on, give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's let him go on with the fight. But it is what it is. It's gone past that. And a lot of people was writing off Danny Jacobs and saying, oh, he's going to get knocked out in 8 rounds. I didn't think anybody was going to get knocked out in this fight. I didn't even think anybody was going to get dropped. And you can check my video on that. But what I thought was going to happen was that the fight would have played out in such a way that one fighter would have dominated the other fighter to some degree, all right, especially coming down the stretch, right? But it depended on one fighter making more mistakes than the other, So, but it was a good fight, man. I love it. I loved every second of it. I was even glad for the surprise. I was like, damn! When I saw that, I was like, woo! I wanted to see how Peter Quillin would react to it.
That was the Bisha woos right there.
I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed the fight. I really did enjoy that fight.
Let's talk future here for both guys. A lot of folks are talking the aftermath of Jacobs fighting the winner of Andy Lee's bout, his mandatory bout, coming up against Billy Joe Saunders, or the possibility of him fighting Chris Eubank Jr., who we will talk about later on, should Eubank Jr. defeat Spike O'Sullivan Saturday in London. I'm hearing some echo here. Somebody needs to mute their mics. And Eubank, he has, the WBA, they have so many belts, and he has one of them. And technically, Eubank Jr. is in line, should he win. He's in line for a fight with Daniel Jacobs sometime in 2016. Personally, if politics and whatever was not in the play, I would not mind seeing a Jacobs fight with Lemieux, with a David Lemieux. But we know competing networks and promotional companies and whatever, we know how that politics in boxing is. As far as Quillin, you mentioned what you need, a rematch. Okay, that's fine. I wouldn't be against it. My concern is for Quillin. Everybody knows that he's having issues making 160 pounds. So, and there's fights for him at 168 pounds. Good bouts for him where he can make good money. I'm going to ask everybody to unmute their mics right now, and I'm just going to open it up for everybody here. The future for Peter Quillin, as well as Daniel Jacobs. What do y'all think?
I agree. I think Quillin should go to 168. With Andre Ward moving out of 168, it's left a little bit of a vacuum. So I mean, it is all Al Heyman fighters, which is good because all those fights can be made. But it's not a big pot of fighters. I mean, who do you have? The Gale, the Durrell brothers, Ute, and
Auto Jack.
And Jack. And you put Quillin in there, and I mean, it becomes really, a really interesting group of fighters. And it sort of revitalizes 168, and all those fights can be made. Of course, not the Durrell brothers against each other, but every other sort of setup of fights. So it's good for 168. It's good for him. I mean, he will come in stronger. He won't have to drain himself so much. And I mean, it is what it is. With the political climate right now, I mean, it's unlikely that Quillin is going to fight any of the non-Heyman fighters. So I'm sort of hoping Andy Lee and GGG fight in Europe, Monaco, so he can get that belt so that Jacobs doesn't get it. And then we're never going to really be able to see GGG sort of get all those belts, which would be too bad.
You spoke for me all the way through. It makes so much sense for Quillin to just call it a day at 160 and go up. And he was not real enthusiastic about a rematch at the end of that fight. I think that's all we needed to know. Is he was very gracious, very classy in his defeat, and that's a model for young fighters and others to watch. He handled himself really beautifully. Much credit to him, much respect for that. But yeah, go up to 168. Plenty to do there, and yeah, Andre's out of the way, so good for him. Jacobs, I agree with you, Michael. Test Jacobs against Lemieux, and that gives both Jacobs and Golovkin a really good idea, of where his skills stand, because we will have been able to see both those guys against against the similar foe, and of course, we've seen Quillin fight a mutual combatant in Hassan Andam, so we'll be able to triangulate a little better and figure out where Jacob's skills stand right now. And I'm going to shut down because I hear that microphone problem. I don't know if that's my end or not, but I've said my say. I agree with all of the above, you guys.
I'm going to you first, Daniel, then what you need.
All right. When it comes to the future for Jacobs, the obvious one that people like is the Andy Lee fight, the winner of Lee Saunders, to get the shot. But there's been little rumblings, unfortunately, that he may actually be ordered to be Triple G's mandatory for the WBA belt. So that opens up a little bit of eye, because Triple G will say he wants to unite those belts. So this is a good way to do it, but we know network issues are going to relate to that unless the new HBO head changes things. With Quillin, like I said, we talked about on Sunday, it's more natural now for him to move to super middleweight because it's easy to make. Because it's easier to make, his body won't be as drained. They mentioned it, almost all the marquee fighters there are now Heyman guys. So you can see a Quillin DeGale or a Quillin Jack, or maybe even, like I said, there's a vacant WBA title now. Maybe Quillin Butte for that vacant belt. Like I said, those are fights that can be made, and those are futures that can actually be a lot easier to forge, because the Strip Quillin's been having trouble making 160. With Jacobs, like I said, it just depends on what the WBA does, because if they do order him to make a fight with Triple G could easily just say, okay, this is going to be one of the fights that won't air on HBO. He has one of those. I think it's usually in Monte Carlo now. So we'll have to see what it does, but yeah, most likely is going to be the winner of Lee Saunders for Jacobs.
First of all, I'm going to say your mic is a little bit scratchy here, Daniel. So, I think the echo may be coming from your end as well, because I'm hearing it right now, and everybody's mic is muted. So I'm trying to fix it on my end, see what you can do on your end as far as that. I'm going to unmute your mic once you need, please, brother, and talk about the future for both Daniel Jacobs and Peter Quillin. What do you see for both of them?
Well, let's start with Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs has some other names that people are not thinking about right now. It's cool. Can you hear me? You can hear me? Okay, because everything just went dead silent. All right. Yeah.
Everybody's mic is muted. So go ahead.
Right.
You said he has some other names that we're not mentioning.
Yeah.
Expand on that.
Well, I'm about to. So in the super welterweight division, there's some guys down there that are going to move up to 160 pretty soon. I don't know how soon, but one of them is Erick Lara, who is the WBA super welterweight champion. Now, we all know that this boy is pretty big for his division, Demetrius Andrade. I don't know if he's going to make that move up. We'll see. The other guy is Jamal Charlo. I know he has defended his title, but he has also indicated sometime in the past that when he wins his world title, he may move up to 160. So these are just three names. For sure, we know Erick Lara, he's going to be making that move pretty soon. He indicated that, right? He wants to fight Golovkin. I don't know how that's going to happen, but yeah, so those are some of the names that people may not be thinking about, in addition to Andy Lee, Chris Eubank Jr., who is his mandatory at this present point in time. And then we have a number of other names that people may not be thinking about, but they're on the PBC. And some of these guys, they still got a little ways to go. But we got Sam Solomon, who's a veteran. Dominic Wade. We have, he can be matched up with Hassan Ndam, because Hassan Ndam, I don't think he's affiliated with any particular network.
No, he's not.
Right. So you got a couple names. You even have, Miguel Cotto was with Rock Nation. I know that, but I've seen. I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's see what happens with Rock Nation and PBC. I don't know what I was actually seeing.
The problem with that is Roach is talking about Cotto fighting, going back down to 154.
Right. Well, he does have. I think he has one more fight on his contract with Rock Nation. So that's another dude you can look at, though. If he definitively does that, right? That's a different story. So these are just some of the names that Danny Jacobs could face at 160, and some of them might be fresh blood, some of them may not be. We got some other guys like Michel Soro. I think Michel Soro, he's facing, who's he facing? There's a guy he's facing. I can't remember. Michel Soro, the guy who knocked out, what's his name? Oh, no. Michel Soro is facing, I think he's facing Willie Monroe Jr. Am I right?
I think so.
I think so. So that may not be. So, but anyway, you got all these guys. You even got Willie Monroe Jr. He's there. So you got those names. Now, when it comes to Peter Quillin, that's up to his team. But if he stays at 160, right, he could still face Sergio Mora. I don't think he has ever faced Sergio Mora on the PBC side. Sergio Mora, you got the other names that I mentioned, but you also have guys like the winner of Billy Joe Saunders and Andy Lee. A rematch with Andy Lee would be interesting as well. So, I mean, that's his option at 160. If he wants to move up to 168, there's Felix Sturm. There's Callum Smith. You got George Groves, Anthony Durrell. You got Sakio Bika. I don't know if Bika's going to stay at light heavyweight or he's coming back down to super middleweight. You got Arthur Abraham. So you got about Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I think he's supposed to face Badu.
Stop.
He's supposed to face Badu Jack. All right. He's supposed to face Badu Jack. I'm just saying he's a name.
And
right?
Callum Smith, I like the name. The problem is that if Badu Jack doesn't fight DeGale in a unification bout, Callum Smith is going to get that opportunity because he's the #1 contender now.
That's true. But I'm just putting out names there. I'm not saying when he would fight them, but you got some names. You even got this up and comer here, Jesse Hart, that's coming up. He's looking good and stuff. I think he's supposed to have a shot at. He's calling out Arthur Abraham, isn't that right? I think he wants to fight Arthur Abraham. So,
yes.
Yeah. So different guys in the division, man, that they got. So, whether he stays up, you got Blake Caparello, who he was at light heavyweight, he came back down or something like that. So I'm just saying, you got all these guys out there that are options for Peter Quillin, and on the PBC side, I don't know if they'll reach out across the pond and see what's happening there as well. So we'll see what happens in time. I mean, but the nice thing about boxing, it changes very rapidly. So we'll see. Lucian Bute's out there, like your guys say. J. Leon Love. We got that dude too. We got a couple of them. Martin Murray, he's up in 168 now. He moved up. You're going to see some guys move up from the lower weight division. So, it's going to change the playing field a little bit. You're going to see super welterweight move up to middle move up. Some of them from middle move up to super middle and so on.
I'm going to go back to you, what you need on this next fight. Keep your mic open.
Oh, Julius Jackson as well is in that division, by the way.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. Yeah, that's a decent fight. He's too vulnerable, for my opinion, for those names that you mentioned. But he will be a good name. He'll be a decent name to get a win against as he moves up. Like I said, I was gonna go back to you on this fight. Chris Algieri, 10-round win over Erick Bone. Yeah. 97-92 on 2 scorecards, 95-94 on the other. Excuse me. Not just talk about the fight, but talk about the transformation, if you will, of Algieri. Since he's now being trained by John David Jackson, much more aggressive, goes to the body, doesn't nearly move on his feet and box like he did, including the Provodnikov and Pacquiao bout. So talk about the fight itself and talk about this change of style in Chris Algieri.
Well, his basic style is the same. The difference is that I find that John David Jackson has him sitting down on his punches. He's making him get the most out of his punches now than before. And he's still not doing it perfectly, but you could see that he's sitting down. He knocked the dude down. I mean, that was impressive. You know what I mean? So, I mean, Chris Algieri, he's not just moving excessively around the ring anymore. You could see now he's more planted in how he gets the leverage off his punches, how he also moves his body in space. Really nice, really nice. The only thing I gotta say though is sometimes he gets a little too carried away with the brawling. You know, I think John David Jackson was trying to calm him down in the corner and get him to be more strategic. Let the knockout come to you, not press for the knockout. You know. But yeah, I liked what he got caught though. He got caught a couple times. He wasn't supposed to get caught with those shots though. But again, tribute to Erick Bone. I like this Chris Algieri. I like this Chris Algieri I'm seeing. You know, different. He's different, but he's same style really. Basically the same style, somewhat, just much more patient. I'm sitting down more on the punches instead of rushing the punches. He used to rush those punches too much, I found. So he didn't get the power he's supposed to get.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to you. I'm sorry for pronouncing it. It is Bone. My mistake on that. I'm going to you on this one, Sean. I think. Unmute your mic. You got your mic muted, Sean. I think that with this new style from Algieri, the fact that David Jackson is in his corner, that alone, I believe, will make him a better fighter. And to what you need's point about him settling down more, not moving so much in the ring, he's adding power to his game. But the thing is, Sean, if he needed to, he could still go back and move against the right guy. So talk about that.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, we know he can box and move. And from many fans in boxing, I mean, that's the way they think boxing should be done. Now he's shown that he is learning to be a little more aggressive and being a little more flat-footed and generating power and pushing and being aggressive a little more, which is good because depending on who he fights, you need to be able to change your style to adapt with the guys you're fighting. So that's a beneficial thing. I mean, would his new style help him do better against Manny Pacquiao than his moving style? It would help him get knocked out, but I don't know if it would help him win that fight. But against a guy like Quillin, who's a boxer, has never lost to a boxer, that is a style that would be more beneficial, and it was beneficial. He fought very well in that fight. And a guy like Bone, he's a good, versatile fighter, but I mean, he's not elite. So at this point, we don't really know how his two styles are going to mesh and how it's going to work when he steps up in competition and fights like a really top-level fighter. I mean, nothing against Bone. He's a good fighter. But, I mean, he doesn't have any significant wins. His biggest fight, of course, is losing to Porter in a fight that he fought very well and sort of surprised a lot of people and made a name for himself. And in this fight, he only sort of continues to build on that by giving Algieri a really good fight. And Algieri's always been a good fighter. He's a guy who's sort of been, you know, underestimated and torn apart because people didn't want him to be a Pacquiao opponent, even though he did what people wanted Pacquiao to do, beat Ruslan, and ended up winning the 140-pound title. So he's always been a good guy, tough chin, durable, and hopefully after this we'll get to see him in against one of the top echelon 147 guys. I mean, you know, Porter is just dying to get a big fight, and Thurman doesn't seem to be too eager for that. So maybe throw Porter in with Algieri.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go to Gail and then Daniel. Speak on the future of Chris Algieri. 140, he's making a permanent move to 147 now. Look, Mayweather's technically retired. Pacquiao technically has one more fight to go. But yet and still the division is still, in my opinion, very deep and rather talented. I'm going again to you, Gail, and then you, Daniel. Where does Chris Algieri fit in that welterweight landscape?
You know, it is full of talented people, but it's accessible. You know, there isn't a logjam at the top with Pacquiao and Mayweather on their way out, or completely out, if you believe what Floyd has to say, which I'm one of many who don't. But that doesn't affect Algieri and the guys there for the most part. Why not get in the mix? I really like what John David Jackson has done with him, and he's not only toughened him up as a fighter in the ring, he's toughened him up as a fighter outside the ring. You know, the first version of Chris Algieri a lot of us saw was, you know, kind of a very cheerful guy, and this is sort of a lark, and isn't this fun, and, you know, what the hell? He's not that way anymore. He's got the, you know, now he's got the full beard on his face, and you know what? That's more than just he decided to grow a beard. That is the new, I'm a tough asshole, I'm not playing around anymore, I'm serious kind of Chris Algieri. As well as the kind of body work that I saw him do this last weekend. You know, he knows he's got no one-punch knockout in his arsenal. He's the kind of guy that has to, you know, pound away at the trunk of the tree before it's going to fall. And that suits him really well. I see a lot of his old martial arts background kind of being summoned up and used in a new way in the boxing ring by Jackson. Brilliant. It's serving him really well. Algerian Porter, I don't know. I don't know if he's quite ready for that, but there's plenty of other players floating around at 147. Throw him in there and see what he can do.
I'll go to you, Daniel. A fight I wouldn't mind seeing is Algerian DSG. I'll meet your mic, Daniel.
Right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Like, Chris Algieri is an interesting concept to me right now, because before he was just a boxer. He moved around. He did the jab. He went around the ring doing angles. He didn't seem like a guy that would fight you on the inside. David Jackson has him fighting on the inside now when he has to, and he showed that with Nonito. Like if you want to look at the fight, it's the first 3 or 4 rounds. It wasn't that much, but then Algieri decided, I got to go to the body. And he went at it, and it showed a little bit of toughness. His eyes were swelling. It shows the toughness that he showed in the Pavanica fight. It showed the toughness of getting up after 6 Pacquiao knockdowns in that fight. What's interesting to me right now in the welterweight division with him is like I said, he's not near like at the top at the moment. He could be above what a gatekeeper would be. In that sense, where you know he's tough, you know he's not going to be out with one punch. He's going to try to outwork you. And you can show other guys that, you know what, you have what it takes. If you can beat this guy without Jerry. So maybe a guy like Errol Spence, I could see that without Jerry coming in. It'd be a good fight. It has 2 names. And a rematch with Khan is still, to me, in the picture, because Khan never really convinced me that he did much in that fight. A rematch with Pavanica, since he moves between 140 and 147, he mentioned that. He mentioned that he wanted a rematch with that. And with Pavanikov's issues with HBO, having him like almost go to Showtime this year, that fight could be made. But it's gonna be interesting. Like having like him above gatekeeper level right now. He's not near the top echelon, but he's one of those guys you have to beat in order to get to that echelon.
That's a good observation. I actually agree with that. While Gail and Sean are in the private chat talking about the interesting life outside the ring of Chris Algieri.
He's no choir boy, I'll put it that way. Well, I don't think he's living in his mommy and daddy's basement anymore. I'll leave it at that. Read his Twitter feed from time to time. You'll get the picture.
But to Daniel's point, I really agree with that. Look, he's a good fighter who you can put in there against a guy to make good fights. Gatekeeper, he may be a level above gatekeeper, but I can see where you're coming from. Errol Spence, that's a fight. I mentioned DSG. I didn't think about Errol Spence Jr. Actually, that's a good matchup. I've been touting Errol Spence Jr. for a while now, and yeah, I can see that bout just to see how good Errol Spence is. If he was to beat Algieri and beat him by decisive manner, then yeah. If DSG is really a true welterweight in the fighter that everybody thinks he is, he should be able to fight a Algieri and not just beat him, but beat him pretty handily. So yeah, I agree with all that completely. Any comments? Any further comments on Algieri before we move on to the news? What you need, Sean, Gail?
I think Algieri, because he's faced elite competition, it's kind of hard to get him motivated for somebody. I mean, the last guy he just fought was Bone, and from what I heard from the inside camp, or people who at least were feeding me information, he wasn't really up for Bone. You know, it was kind of like a downer fight for him. Wasn't really, you know, he wasn't really hyped about that fight. Let's put it that way. So I think he would want a fight where it would be like the level of competition he's faced. He fought Amir Khan, Manny Pacquiao, right, and Provodnikov. Those are names. So I guess he would be looking for more of a name fight, somebody like a Berto or a Guerrera or a Vargas. I know you can't get Vargas, but still a Vargas or like somebody like I don't know, Sean Porter or something like that. You know, some named guy.
You know, the one other name, which would make a very interesting fight, because these are both guys from New York, is Amir Imam. And that's doable.
Amir Imam, though, is a 140-pounder. He's not really a 147.
He's been talking about going up. If he does, I mean, because he's a tall dude. He's
Not
not
now.
gonna be 140 forever.
And he just came off a knockout loss, too.
Right.
So
Not now. No. No.
Maybe a Diego Chavez, but Diego Chavez, I don't know. Maybe because Algieri said that he's not really with. He said it's complicated who his promoter is. So maybe he can move almost anywhere. You know.
Interesting. He just got a big deal with Adidas. I don't know what the hell that's about, but
okay.
Yeah, something going on with him. But you know, he's a smart guy. I mean, unlike a lot of them, he can handle a lot of his own business dealings. Even he's got some good CFO on the side.
A last fight with Juan Manuel Marquez would be a good one too. You know,
I was thinking more Kell Brook.
No, hell no.
I hate to tell.
I think that's a big step up for. I don't know.
I think the winner Garcia Guerrero wouldn't be a bad fight for Algieri, depending on what happens there.
He should be in the WBC belt contest. That would be a good thing for him as well.
Yeah, right, exactly. That does open it up for a lot of people to participate, which I really like that idea in general. Like the whole competition. It was very smart and a great way to start the year. You know, sometimes it's really kind of slow getting off the mark after the new year. That's a great way to get it rolling. It's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to talk about some news events of the week. It looks like we finally got an opponent for Deontay Wilder, while an announcement is going to be made, I believe, tomorrow for an opponent for Manny Pacquiao's return to the ring. I'll go to you, Daniel. We talked about this on your show about the promotion for this, which I think has been rather sloppy. Now Deontay Wilder, given that he is the American heavyweight guy right now, the promotion should go better to treat him. It should go better given what they're trying to build him as. It looks like he's going to be fighting Spilka on the 16th of January. Not a bad fight. I think Wilder will win. Maybe stop him, possibly stop him, probably stop him. But for me, and I'll just go around everybody else here, it's not just the fact that they finally got an opponent. I just think, again, the whole promotion for this bout has been subpar. I'm disappointed in the way this whole thing is being promoted. You don't have this big press conference, an announcement, all this. I understand why it happened, but they should have everything covered in terms of if one opponent drops out, they should be right. Boom. And another fight should come up before that press conference where I'm Deontay Wilder. I'm coming to NYC. I'm coming to Barclays, but no opponent's been made, and you find out a few days later. So just talk about all that, Daniel. Then I'll just go around everywhere else. Everybody can talk about it.
All right. This has been an issue with me regarding Heyman TV, the PBC, ever since its inception. They do not have a ground game. They don't have a street team that organically can hype up fights. Look what happened with Jacobs Quillin. This was supposed to be billed as the Battle of Brooklyn, and they didn't even get 10,000 people in the Barclays Center. And that's with them giving away free tickets. And you're going to have Deontay Wilder go through the same thing now? There's a couple of fighters that you can do in the PBC that you have to treat differently because their charisma, the little competition, and the title that they have requires it. To me, Thurman is one of those people because he has a personality that can overexceed the PBC universe. Wilder's the other person because, let's face it, Americans don't pay attention to boxing unless we have an American as a heavyweight champion. So you should have this already lined up. You should have this set up. Like, granted, yeah, they did a little nice thing where he had an open workout in New York prior to Jacobs Quillin, but then you had a press conference where you don't even know the opponent yet, and it was almost 5 weeks away. Now we know the opponent is Arthur Spilka. He's not a bad guy. He'll take risk, and he can take a punch, and he can give a punch. And luckily, he's been training already, so you know he's not out of shape. But again, it's 5 weeks out. You don't have time to properly promote something. And let's face it, in New York City right now, what's happening right now? The Rangers are playing hockey. Porzingis actually looks good, so the Knicks are actually decent again. Yeah, so people in New York are actually going to have more attention after the regular sports scene. So you need to take attention away from that. And you're not going to do it. You're not going to do that simply following this formula of, okay, we're going to have our guys train. We're going to give them a fight date. But then we're not going to name the opponent until it's almost all too late to properly promote it. And like I said, Wilder's one of these guys where, because of the title that he holds, specifically the title that he holds, the WBC title, Ali, Frazier, Tyson, Holmes, that title, that lineage matters, and you should treat it as such. And that's been my issue with the PBC forever since the inception. For as much as they can buy anything on time buys, as much as they can flood people with free tickets, it doesn't escape the fact that you don't organically grow fighters. Look at the numbers, and actually look at the Showtime numbers for Jacobs Quillin. They were paltry. Even by late PBC standards, they were pretty paltry. This is supposed to be the plan for Al Heyman. Put guys on PBC, build them up, and then take them to Showtime. Well, if that's the case, the mission is a failure. And with a guy like Wilder, you cannot afford it to make it a failure. Not when there's Tyson Fury, not when there's Anthony Joshua out there that could easily take away attention from him over in the UK. And because of the rematch, even with Klitschko still looming over that division. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of issues that are going on, unfortunately, with PBC. We're going to get some more into that later on, but that's pretty much my take. Like, they should have done a much, much better job.
I'm going to go to you. What you need, Gail, Sean. Your thoughts, first on the opponent for Deontay Wilder, and is Daniel being, are we overreacting to the way that this fight has been promoted, to the build-up? Gail, what you need. Sean, your thoughts.
I'm right on with Daniel about Wilder really not getting his just due as the American heavyweight champion. That's a jewel in the crown. PBC should be putting him front and center. He's charismatic. He knows what to do in interviews. He seems very, very willing to participate. He'll wear his crazy black and white spotted suit with his black gloves and get everybody
Fashion
laughing.
police should have arrested him for that jacket, but carry on.
If the gloves fit, there's a lot of those jokes. OJ pictures getting posted and all that nonsense. But in any event, you know, he's the guy that gets attention. And I think it's less any complete failure on the part of Premier Boxing, other than I think they're just spread way, way too thin. They've got so much going on so many fronts. You know, I don't think they've got enough personnel. And I can only say, from my vantage point as a boxing journalist, I know how I'm treated by the various camps and promoters, and who I hear from and who I don't. I hear from Golden Boy on a very consistent basis. They're right there. They answer quickly if you need something. They're on top of it all the time. And HBO as a network, very much the same. In fact, frequently I'll get notices from two different people at HBO, regarding programming. I never miss it. K2, same thing. You know, they are very, very attentive with their stable and with the relationship that they have with us. Premier Boxing, crickets half the time. Crickets. So we're not out there to help them carry the news out to the public. And I think it is just, you know, they are overwhelmed. They either need a whole lot more people, or they're not communicating well internally to get this stuff together. And we're seeing the results in having a fight for one of their major marquee personalities made a handful of weeks out, with all the handicaps Daniel mentioned, especially in the New York area, metro area, when we're talking about selling tickets. Plus, hello folks, it's Christmas time, it's New Year's Eve. There's a lot of other stuff to do in New York. It has nothing to do with sports. If you just wrap sports into the bigger global entertainment universe that we all have to choose from, if you're in New York right now, there's a whole lot of stuff to do. People are making that one annual trip they make a year to Radio City. They're, got tourists in town, family, they're taking them around. And, it is a really tough sell to have a big boxing event just a couple of weeks after you've blown your entire budget and travel on the holidays. Not the best thinking. The matchup, to me, it's fine. I mean, it's not a top A-list matchup, but for the stuff that Wilder can get now, Spilka's a fine opponent. He will give everything he's got. I think his chances are minimal, but we all thought Tyson Fury was going to get blown out too. So, and most people picked Quillin. Not a lot of us on this show, but fights are still worth watching because you never know. But I do think it's really a shame they're not really supporting Wilder in the way that I think they should.
Here's my thing. What you need, and you can follow up, Sean. To what Gail and especially what Daniel was saying earlier. When you look at Deontay Wilder, with Floyd slowly leaving the scene, Wilder has the potential to replace him as the American guy that people focus on in boxing. And the fact that he's a heavyweight too and has a heavyweight belt, that means a lot. Given with that being the case, they should be pouring all kinds of dollars from the promotional standpoint towards his way. It should be making him the star of stars on PBC. Look, they're doing some good things there. He's on a lot of the major sports shows and whatever. But if they want to utilize their full potential vis-a-vis Wilder, not just inside the ring and outside the ring, I'm just sorry, but they have to do a better job. Given the position that he's in, he give him that automatically, and you don't mess up at all. You have all your T's crossed, all your I's dotted. And with this press conference, again, maybe I'm being a little bit overreactionary, but substandard job here, in my opinion. Your thoughts, what you need.
All right. Could you just say that again?
We were just talking about the promotional build up towards this bout with Spilka. I just thought it was sloppy the way it's handled. You have a
Oh,
press
okay, okay,
conference. The press
okay.
conference, they have this big build up, and then you don't have opponents. Yeah, you have an opponent later on, a couple of days, a week later or so. But my point is, Wilder, he has the potential to be the American fighter, and the American boxer that people should have their attention towards in the future. With Floyd slowly leaving the scene, and while PBC is doing some good things in terms of bringing him all over the networks and whatever, special shows and whatnot, I just think this move, this press conference, this whole ordeal in the lead up, it's a bit of a step backwards. Your thoughts?
All right, so let's give some background here. First of all, he was supposed to fight Vyacheslav Glasgow. That was the dude that he was supposed to be fighting, and Glasgow pulled out because he had a shot at the IBF title. Because Vladimir Klitschko was defeated by Tyson Fury. Apparently, the winner probably had to face an IBF mandatory, and it just so happened that Glasgow was the #1 contender in the IBF, if I'm not mistaken. So what happened on December the 3rd, which was 7 days ago, was that Glasgow decided he was going the IBF route, pulled out of the fight. That's why this whole build-up, they had to get another contender. In this case, it was Artur Spilka. Now, I'm not too sure if this is verifiable, but I think Tyson Fury is either stripped of his belt or he's in danger of getting his title stripped, the IBF title, because he has a clause in which he has to rematch Vladimir Klitschko. Am I correct so far?
Yeah, you're right, and we're going to talk about that. But my issue is,
right. So let me get back to
let me add this quick caveat. You heard rumblings even before
just now. Let me cut.
Fury's upset, even before Klitschko's. I didn't hear what he said. He said he had to be back.
I said I'll mute because I heard some background noise.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was going to say you heard rumblings even before Fury's upset of Klitschko that Kathy Duva was going to make moves that she was going to ensure that that Glasgow get that fight. If I heard it here, doing a little show here, little podcast, do not tell me that the handlers of Wilder did not know this as well. So they should have been ahead of the game and looked for that possible and said, look, we may not get Glasgow. What's the next move? And have all that stuff done immediately before the press conference. That's my thing. Go ahead. What you need?
Yeah, okay. I can respect that to some degree. I'm just saying though that I think I'm getting background feedback from my own phone or something. But I can say though that given that was the case, that still they had to make arrangements with Artur Spilka because they probably were working that out in the background. So even so, that's probably what happened, and that's what you saw. Remember, that happened just 3 days ago. So even if they were working out the dealings with Spilka in the background, it's only 3 days ago. So you don't expect it to just flow in 7 days later into this promo for this fight. I couldn't see that really happening, even if they had Spilka as a backup. But Spilka as a opponent though, is to me he's a decent opponent. I mean, he prefers somebody else, a Povetkin for instance. But then again, Povetkin, he's also he's going to be a little bit occupied until next year. So it is what it is.
Isn't that fight canceled? And Daniel, you was mentioning something before the show about that Povetkin bout has been called off because the opponent tested positive for steroids or something.
Yeah, that'd be Wak, right?
What happened?
No, that happened with the Wak fight.
Yeah.
Wak.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What happened with the Wak fight is Wak is not getting paid because he tested positive.
That's what, at least that's allegedly what they're saying, that he tested positive. They still need to verify that because the organization that's may have been doing the testing is an organization that might have been banned by WADA. So it's very complicated.
So continue on.
If it involves Russia, it's bad.
Yeah, continue on with your point. What you need about Spilka?
Saying that so I'm just saying that the time has been 7 days though, so maybe they got their stuff ironed out with Spilka as the next option, and then they're rolling with him now because he is the dude for the 16th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened there, but I wish he could have gotten like everybody else Povetkin. That's what I really wanted to see. But hey, if it's Spilka, it's Spilka. It's gonna be in New York, and I guess they're gonna do their promo thing. And
Yeah. Let's move on and talk about Manny Pacquiao. As we all know, he's going to return to the ring first quarter next year. I can't remember, it was April or May, but anyway, rumors going back is going to be either between Bradley, uh, um, Amir Khan, and I can't remember the third opponent. They've been Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford. I'm sorry. Announcement is going to be Friday. Big rumor we're hearing now is that indeed they're going to settle on a trilogy between Pacquiao and Bradley. I'll go to you on this one, Gail. Unmute your mic, please. Your thoughts on if this is true, a third fight between Manny Pacquiao and Timothy Bradley?
I think there's going to be a lot of shoulder shrugging out there with this fight. Will it sell? It'll sell because it's the farewell for Manny. Is it a good matchup? I think a lot of us have asked, do we really need to see it? Again, the one little bit of magic that might make it more interesting is our favorite firefighting coach in the corner, Teddy Atlas. Teddy is the one that makes this in any way interesting, because what he was able to do with Bradley for his last bout, and if he continues that upward trajectory for Bradley, then we have something a little more interesting to watch. Is that the fight that Bob Arum and the rest of the boxing universe really wants to see for Manny on his way out? I don't know. I don't think it is. I think that it is sort of a best we can do at the time, and what a shame to send him out, on what has been a absolutely amazing career, considering where he came from and where he is today. It just seems like a bit of a letdown to me. Honestly, I would rather see him at least step in the ring with someone he's never faced before. That's me. Will I watch it? Will I cover it? Will we make a big deal about it? Of course we will. Won't even matter who it is. But we could do better.
I'll go to you what you need. Look, I've said it before on the show that I wish Manny Pacquiao would have retired after the Mayweather bout, but he's decided to take one more fight, so it is what it is. Terrence Crawford is the hot name among us boxing geeks, given the way he's looked over the past year or two. If they settle on Pacquiao, call me crazy here, what you need, but given the way that Bradley looked and how he can improve, I think from a very nuanced, technical style matchup, if you will, I think that Timothy Bradley would do very well in the third bout against Manny Pacquiao. Potentially even beat him here. Your thoughts? I know Pacquiao has the speed and he has the movement, but there's only so much that Manny Pacquiao can do. He's still rather limited after all these years. But Bradley, given how he's looked, and I think how he can improve with Roach, implementing some new things.
Roach?
This is not a bad. Teddy Atlas. Excuse me. I just think this could be a very good fight.
Actually, I agree with you on that. I actually believe also there's a little trinket at the end. Manny Pacquiao could become another time a world champion at welterweight. So I think that's a good little dangling thing versus going down to junior welterweight, fighting a junior welterweight at junior welterweight. I mean, when last has Manny Pacquiao fought a junior welterweight? You can go and check. You can see. So it's been a while, right? Yeah.
Ricky Hatton, maybe.
That's back in 2008. That's a while now. It's a while back, right? That's about almost 8 years ago. So I think the Timothy Bradley trilogy, in a sense, makes more sense to me That's to me. I don't know. They want Terrence Crawford next, and they're thinking Bob Arum's talking about getting Terrence Crawford at 140. I don't know. To me, Timothy Bradley's a guy of Manny Pacquiao's era. Terrence Crawford is a whole new era. To me, Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley kind of in an official way settles a score. You know, Bradley got one, Pacquiao got one, whatever you guys may think, your view about it. And so this is a nice way to settle it off, as well as get that nice little WBO trinket. And again, show that Manny Pacquiao, he could deal with a boxer. He could deal with a boxer. So that I think there are all those little challenges. With Terrence Crawford, what does Manny Pacquiao gain? Like, Terrence Crawford is young, he's strong, he's a switch hitter, he's a skilled boxer. You know, if he wins that fight, big for him, but really he's still beating a 140-pounder versus a welterweight. So I mean,
if Terrence Crawford win, it we look as a stepping stone.
Exactly, and I don't like that. And then Terrence Crawford could possibly knock Manny Pacquiao, even though I don't think so, but he could possibly knock him out because he has I'm wrong. I don't see it happening because he's a 140-pounder, one, and then two, Manny Pacquiao is very strong, and I don't really see that happening. But I would say that it kind of Terrence Crawford's not on Manny Pacquiao's level. You get what I'm saying? It's like this guy benefits everything by fighting me. I benefit nothing. You know, whereas Timothy Bradley, he's on Pacquiao's level in the sense that he's fought Pacquiao. He's, you know, got a win over Pacquiao. You know, he's fighting somebody on his level at least. You know what I mean? So to me, that Bradley fight is it's an interesting fight because Bradley's supposed to be this dude who has improved. You know what I mean? And Teddy Atlas is supposed to have made this big difference in him. Let's see if he really could handle Manny Pacquiao or if he gets into more leg problems in this fight. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and let's keep in mind what you need. And I'll go to you, Daniel, following up shortly. That second bout, the first 6 rounds, it can be legitimately argued here that Bradley had the advantage to the first 6 rounds of that bout.
Yeah, he was imposing his will, but Manny Pacquiao was counterpunching him, though. I don't know if you were paying attention to all those headshots Manny Pacquiao was hitting Timothy Bradley in the inside, which was very interesting. He was landing some nice uppercuts. I watched the fight a couple of times. It was a close fight, so you know. But I'm not really against it because nobody's going to get Manny Pacquiao market as 5. That's not going to happen, right?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't happen.
And Manny Pacquiao is known for trilogies and series of fights. Why not? You know, and I'm not going to say that Timothy Bradley can't punch because in the second fight he did punch Manny Pacquiao and he did hurt him. So I'm not saying that he can't punch. I'm not saying that, but I just think that that's a nice way to go out the game, especially if he is respectable. Win or lose, he comes out respectable. You know, people respect him for the fight. Versus Terrence Crawford, where you're going to get drained, and you might get knocked out because you're drained. And then this kid, he's going to build a name off of you if you lose. I mean, if you lose against Timothy Bradley, no harm done. You know what I mean? You lose against Terrence Crawford, that don't look too good. So, I mean, all of those things I factor in. If Terrence Crawford's fighting him at 147, it's a much different story. I think Pacquiao wins that. At 140, I just don't like the fight with Terrence Crawford. I'm telling people straight up, I don't like it. I mean, yeah, I just don't like that fight. I prefer to see him fight Jesse. Anybody else at 147, you know, than a 140-pounder at this time in the game. Even a catchweight fight would not be a problem for me. You know, but I think they're going for Terrence Crawford in spite of everything. I think they're going for Terrence Crawford.
Unfortunately, Sean and Jacob had to leave the show, so I want to thank them for being on here earlier. I'll go to you, Daniel, on this one. Unmute your mic, please. Your thoughts on the discussion we've been having so far about Manny Pacquiao and what's potentially in store for him in his next bout, and who he may fight.
Well, to me, when I look at it, it makes business sense. And the fact that it justifies the amount the Top Rank has to pay Timothy Bradley for a fight. A Pacquiao fight's a fight where you can justify him being paid a lot of money. And they owe him a lot of money. So it justifies it in that sense. I kind of do agree in the sense of the fact that it does officially settle a score. they both technically have a win towards one another, but in reality, like we know, Pacquiao won that fight both times. The score should have been flipped for either fight, but Pacquiao won both those fights. What you need, I like what you need hit him with Crawford. He's hit the effects of Crawford winning, which is, I think, what Bob Arum actually wants, because then he has his new high horse, now that with Pacquiao retiring. The fear I think that Bob Arum has, I think was what pushed him now towards Bradley, is what if Pacquiao wins? If Pacquiao wins, he doesn't have a high horse anymore. Verdejo's not ready for that. Oscar Valdez isn't ready for that yet. Zuda Ramirez isn't ready for that. So, with Crawford being, if Crawford loses to Pacquiao, which, like I said, if the fight does happen, could easily happen, then Top Rank is pretty much rudderless. And you can't be rudderless when across the street, a Golden Boy, they have Canelo. They know what direction they're going.
Good point.
Yeah, so with the Bradley fight, like I said, it does settle a little bit of a score. We might see something different with Teddy Atlas coming in, but it's a fight that it's groaning, because as far as the title situation, okay, Pacquiao wins the title, he retires, and you give it back to Bradley. Or the WBO, what the IBF has been doing lately, and then actually follow your rules and force the mandatory with Saddam Ali. Because Saddam Ali has said time and time again, I'm not taking any step-aside money. I want my title shot.
Mm.
Yeah, the problem though is Saddam Ali is not marketable. I mean, when we're talking, we're talking about two different things. Does he deserve the shot? From a sporting point of view, yes, he really does. From a monetary promotions, let's make some money and be able to pay these guys point of view, no. The issue I have, I think, too, with Bradley, Teddy Atlas aside, Bradley went through a very rough period between Pacquiao 1 and Pacquiao 2. That first fight really messed him up in the head. It derailed. He won the fight, but it
talking about like the borderline hate mail he got. You talking about the hate mail and everything that he received after that first fight?
Yeah, he was in a bad way mentally. I mean, it really, really messed him up because of the backlash he got over getting a win that no one felt he'd earned. I don't know what he thought deep down in his heart of hearts. Publicly, he portrayed that he felt he had won, and the public disagreed, and they vilified him for it. He didn't fill out the cards. It wasn't his fault, but he took a big hit from that. And that victory he got here, just a matter of weeks ago, he's finally come full circle from that. Finally. I don't think he needs to go backwards. I don't think he needs to go back there unless he and Teddy have talked it over and he is feeling like such a different fighter under Teddy's wing that he wants to go back and make things right. I don't know. I think it's a bad move for him. I think it's going in reverse for him. I'd rather not see him go there, but I have a feeling they are going to go there.
You're talking about from a psychological standpoint and what he had to go through from that, and say if he were to lose again, how devastating that could be for him.
Absolutely right. Or he gets a replay of what happened in Pat Bradley 1, which is he gets the decision win, and the public goes after him for it, just like the first one. Let's say that it's another really close one, and all of Manny's fans see him winning. It goes on the cards again to Bradley. He's right back where he was before. And that's a big, big, deep hole he had to dig himself out of. I don't know that I'd want to go back there if I'm him. I just don't think so. And it is psychological. Absolutely. It's all in his mind. Completely. It has nothing to do with the fight and his skills. Because he looked good. He looked great. I think he and Teddy are a great match.
That's the thing.
But I think you don't go there.
That's the thing, psychologically, like, I could see the point, But then I started thinking the monetary thing. Like I said, you have to justify HBO. that Bradley's getting paid this amount of money.
Yeah.
And you
Oh,
just mentioned,
of course.
yeah, that's you just mentioned Saddam Ali is not, as much as I want the fight from a pure standpoint, it doesn't justify it on a monetary sense.
No, it doesn't. That it doesn't at all. So I understand the road they're having to go down.
And the cool thing about that is, if Pacquiao can win that fight, he finishes his career off on a winning note. You know, because if he took the if it's argued, I mean, I have a different opinion, but if it's argued that he took the first 2 fights, then it should be possible for him to take this 3rd fight because he's got that mental edge over Bradley, and he should be able to take the 3rd fight, which means he gets the WBO title again. And that's what I want Pacquiao to win and come out on top of the game. I don't want Manny Pacquiao to be knocked out or something. So that's where I see Bradley as actually, this might sound weird, but I see Bradley as not easier, but an opponent that is better for Pacquiao than, say, a Terence Crawford, who, man, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Terence Crawford can do a lot, plus he's riding a wave of confidence.
And he's the truth, man. That boy, scary, man. That's all I gotta say.
He absolutely is the real deal. I like him more and more every time.
Even though I think Bradley can really do well in the 3rd fight with Pacquiao. To your point, Crawford is dangerous. He is really dangerous.
Yeah, especially at 140 right now.
Yes.
Very.
But I do disagree with this when it comes to the sense of Pacquiao not able to make 140. You see his fights coming in as the 147. He's always coming in at least 2 or 3 pounds below. So
yeah, but he doesn't. He
comfortable at 140.
But on the fight night, he comes in 150 something, 149. All right. So, and he hasn't made 140 in a long time. I'm telling you. And that extra 2-3 pounds. I think. What is it? 4 pounds? 3 pounds? That extra 3-4 pounds is gonna be interesting, you know. And you talking about Terence Crawford comes in 159, 158 on fight night. It's a big, strong guy, man. I don't like.
That's what youth will do for you.
Yeah, he's youthful too. He's young. And it'd be a big win on Pacquiao's cap if he can beat Crawford, though. I'll give you that.
But the problem is, I just think that Crawford, 1, is too dangerous, and 2, let's just call it what it is. If he lands it, if he indeed gets the fight somehow, or whenever he gets the fight, it's going to be viewed as a stepping stone. And Manny's done too much of his career to be looked at as a stepping stone.
Yeah,
he doesn't deserve that.
I don't think so either.
I agree.
And then I see how they did Cotto. I didn't like how they did Cotto either, but he represented himself. So
let's talk. Go ahead.
Anybody?
It was a big fight though, so I'm not mad at Cotto. He got paid.
Yeah, one final bit of news before we preview what's happening this weekend. A lot of boxing happening this weekend. That's Tyson Fury. I guess he's going to be stripped of the IBF belt. I'm just going to leave it for everybody here. Your thoughts on that? And you had an interesting observation in terms of why he's being stripped of that. Daniel, I want you to go into that first before Gail, and what you need. You can comment afterwards. Go ahead, Danny.
All right. This is a situation when it comes right now, Tyson Fury. He has been officially stripped of the IBF heavyweight title. So now it's been ordered a fight with Glaskov and Martin, the guy that was supposed to be fighting Dominic Brazil this Saturday on PBC. Martin stepped out so he could secure the fight with Glaskov. Well, what's interesting, that I think what a lot of people want to mention it is, I think Gail mentioned it too, that Kathy Dubin was making moves to make sure that Glaskov get the shot. I think if Klitschko would have won that fight, he would have gotten a shot anyway, because Klitschko's just been fighting mandatories right now, left and right. With Fury taking the Klitschko fight, it stalled her fighter out for a long time. And now that he gets an open title shot, but what's interesting to me are two or three things. Number one, she's kind of doing the same thing that Al Heyman is doing to her, involving the same sanctioning body, the IBF, when it comes to Sergey Kovalev, which is have the fighter asking the opponent. But what's another interesting thing coming into it is what's been happening. There's been word that this has been lined up to be a platter fight for Anthony Joshua. And this is one of the big issues in boxing. Like I said, they call it the politics. A sanctioning body tends to be a favorite of one particular promotion for a while. Like with the WBO, it's been heavily favored a lot of times towards Top Rank. The WBC, a long time with Don King, when Don King actually had power. The IBF seems to be getting cozy up with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. So this looks more like this is a way to give a fight and a title to Anthony Joshua on the silver platter, rather than have him wait for a shot at Klitschko or a shot at Tyson Fury, or even a shot at Deontay Wilder, because he's ranked pretty high in the WBC rankings. But this opens up immediately. You can have Anthony Joshua be called a world champion, but it's an interesting angle from what's been happening to Tyson Fury. Like I said, to not even a little bit out. The IBF knew the situation. They knew that monetarily he's going to take the Klitschko fight. It is a little bit dirty, but unfortunately it is boxing politics of what you're dealing with here. And like I said, the most interesting thing to me is that Kathy Dubas is doing what Heyman is doing, has been trying to do to her, regarding Sergey Kovalev and the IBF. She's doing the exact same thing, granted for very different reasons, but it's still the same thing.
I'm gonna open it up for Gail what you need. Talk about Fury being stripped of the belt, and also talk about what Daniel was mentioning, his theory in terms of why all this is happening.
I think it's as good a working theory as any, and you know, the way the belts get handed around, and there's so many damn belts, it really serves to be fairly ridiculous. As far as Fury's concerned, does it change his marketability that much? Does it change kind of payday he's going to get? Does it change in one bit the notoriety he's gotten in the wake of this win? I mean, the guy is everywhere, and the man cannot shut up to save his life. So, in reality, how much does it change for the man?
He really needs to shut up, given some of the stupid stuff he's been saying over the past few days.
I mean, if I was working with him professionally, if someone called my public relations firm and said, "Hey, you want to work with Tyson Fury?" I'd say I'd be running the other direction.
Nah, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't hire you anyway. You know why?
True, because he thinks he knows what he's doing.
No, that's not why. Because you're a woman?
That's right, because he doesn't like women. It doesn't, as far as Fury himself and how his career is going to progress and the kind of money that's going to come in and opportunities, is it going to make that much difference for him personally? Nah, not really. Did it need to happen? No. Is it dirty? Probably. Is it going to matter? Not to him. Not to him. He's going to get a big darn payday to take on Klitschko again, and if Klitschko's smart, he will work like he's never worked in his life, give that man a beat down, and call it a career. Fury can go off and spend his money and spout his various racist, sexist, bigoted, religious nonsense as much as he wants. And if you care to listen, folks, have at it.
Your thoughts on this, what you need. Mute your mic, what you need.
Oh, yeah. Tyson Fury, I'm just going to say it straight. I think it's whack what happened to Tyson Fury. You going to win a fight, and then all of a sudden you got to fight this mandatory. You have a rematch clause. Somebody's not communicating. I don't know who it is, but that's whack, all right, as far as I'm concerned. Straight up. I mean, the IBF, this guy beats, and I thought something like this would happen, right? I thought that if Klitschko lost, now I actually said it in a video, I believe that now these belts, they're going to just start to break apart and things are going to start to happen. And true to form, this guy hasn't even been, he's now 11, 12 days, maybe 13 days past his win, and they already stripping this dude. So, I mean, that's whack, man. That's whack. You know, so the other guy, he's gonna have his chance at a title. Cool for him. I mean, I'm not mad at him. You can get a title shot and go for it. I mean, but at the end of the day, you know, I think that the champion should be allowed to get his shot at the other champion, and that should be precedent over a mandatory challenger. This reminds me of how the sanctioning body started to behave back in the day. And I think if Klitschko, if he had won this fight, I don't think we would have had a problem, possibly because he would have taken on his mandatory or had some sort of, I don't know, some sort of deal done with the IBF. But apparently, since Tyson Fury is a new guy on the scene, things kind of work a little differently, you know?
Nah, I disagree. I disagree what you mean. I think that Kathy Duva is hell-bent on getting Glasgow a title shot. Step aside fee, they could have offered it, but yeah, they want Glasgow to get that title shot regardless of who's in there. It would have happened, and to Daniel's point, if Klitschko would have won, he would have got it anyway. He would have got the title shot, and that's the bottom line for me. They just want their title shot.
So they were pushing for that. That's what you think?
Yeah. I just rumblings even before that, you know, that this move was going to be made. Whoever was going to win, that Glasgow was going to be the next opponent, regardless of who came out winning.
Basically, he's enforcing his mandatory decision. That's basically what he put on the table.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, cool. Well,
and
anyway,
like I said, they could have offered a step-aside fee, but I just don't think he would take it. I just don't think he would have taken it.
Okay, cool. Well, what I do know though is, to me, that is very whack. It's just whack.
It is.
I mean, it's not cool. But hey, that's boxing for you. So, you know, he'll be facing Martin. I didn't know that Martin's not facing Brazil anymore. So who's Brazil facing? Because that changes up everything.
He's not going to fight on that card.
Wow. Okay.
So
that would have been a good matchup with Brazil. I guess it's going to be Glasgow now. This southpaw. Martin's pretty decent, man. I would like to see how he handles Glasgow. So that'll be an interesting fight anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to preview what's happening this weekend. I want to start, ladies and gents, with the fight happening tomorrow night. Nonito Donaire fighting a guy by the name of Juarez for now WBO belt at 122. I know Gail, she has her opinions on that, but I'm just gonna again open it up for everybody. Your thoughts on Donaire? I want to focus on him more than anything else because I'm interested in this fight. The fact that he's moving back down to 122. It the sense that he may have some of his. He's more willing. He has his spirits up. Again, I think he lost it for a while after the Rigo bout, and especially after the Walters bout. But I think he's been rejuvenated, if you will. He's reassessed some things, and I'm interested to see how he looks here. Because if he wins and wins impressively, particularly by stoppage, I think moving forward at 122, he could do some damage because outside of Quigg and Frampton, there's not really a lot there in that division.
Agreed. And if Frampton moves up like he plans to, it's there for the taking. But Nonito really has to want it. We have to see that he wants it. We want to see an effort. I'd almost rather see him lose a really close one and absolutely give it all he's got, bang it out, than to win a lackluster fight. I hope no matter what happens, it's a real entertaining fight, that we see real effort out there. Interesting, he is another guy a lot like Timothy Bradley, who had some real psychological, dark days after these losses he took, and especially after Walters, and that was just such a horrible beatdown. It was awful. I was there. It just couldn't have been uglier. This is going to determine, whether he still got a few more fruitful years in boxing or not. So a lot at stake for him. This is a really big fight for him. The belt, nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Why do we feel the need to dangle a belt out? You know, meaningless belt to, what, make it more interesting? Entice people to watch? No. People are either going to watch this fight for the intrinsic value or not. The belt is ridiculous. This whole thing about creating belts out of Cracker Jack boxes is ridiculous. It's driving me crazy.
I'm going to use what you need, and then you can follow. You can follow up, Daniel. Look, we've talked about Nonito Donaire before. In fact, when we mentioned him, the possibility of him fighting Quig, you and I both agreed that Donaire would have a hell of a shot in a potential fight with Quig. Talk about him in this fight with Juarez.
I think he's gonna run over Juarez. That's basically it. He's doing okay, man. I think people think they probably underestimated Donaire. They'll see. I mean, he's been with Nicholas Walters. I mean, he's been with Rigondeaux. People don't understand that. So he's been at the top. So really, I don't think Carl Frampton, could he beat him? I think Frampton's a pretty big dude. So that's an interesting fight. But Quig, I don't think Quig could have beat him. So people have been saying he's kind of run out, he's kind of run down. I don't think so. I think he's going to come through, beat this guy up, and then move on to bigger and better things. I think he wants Rigo, a rematch with Rigo, any one of those other guys in his division. He might even move up. He's willing to also move up and fight Lomachenko. The thing I like about Donaire, he bucked against Rigo the first time, but he fought Rigo. And then he went and fought a killer in Nicholas Walters. This guy ain't afraid of nobody, okay? And so he's gonna run over Cesar Juarez, and then he's gonna make his call. You know, he's gonna have a belt there. Rigo, come and get a belt. You want a belt? You know. So I mean, that's what's up with Donaire. I think he's gonna do well, and then hopefully with that belt, he might have some leverage to deal with these other guys, Quig or one of these guys. I don't know. They don't look like they want to fight anybody. They look like they just running. I know they're probably not running. You know, it's a fighter's world or whatever, but I'm just being honest here. I think they duck, man. Santa Cruz, I kind of like Santa Cruz. I like how he boxed Abner Mars, but I think he's just ducking Rigo. And I don't think, Nonito Donaire, to me, he's a killer. That's what I think he is. All right? Because this boy been in with everybody, including a guy much bigger than him in Donaire. He's a killer. That's what I think he is. And I have respect for him. The other guys, I really don't have respect for them. I'm sorry. They didn't prove that they were.
You know, Donaire was the fighter of the year, with, among a lot of boxing journalists, including me, a matter of 3 years ago.
He's a killer. That boy is a killer.
His work ethic is tremendous. The other thing that's really important about Donaire, he has been one of the first very visible boxers at the champion level to insist on drug testing.
Year-round drug testing.
He fights clean. He advocates clean. He's a role model in and outside the ring. He's been terrific with his community. He is very, very generous with his time. There is nothing not to be admired about Donaire, the man, and the athlete. I would love to see him succeed. I really hope he's ready for this. I hope what you talked about him.
He gonna run over that boy.
Is the case. And
I'm feeling sorry for Juarez, number one man.
I hope he goes through him like a buzzsaw. I agree. And wouldn't it be great, especially after the absolutely crummy fight Rigo just put on? God, that was just a horrible fight to watch.
Well, it wasn't that horrible for me. I'm a Rigo fan, so I like it.
Yeah, I was sitting there watching it just
He's a small dude, and the Filipino dude was coming at him, man. The Filipino dude, he was coming, man.
No, I'm saying it just to watch that fight was, there's a million other things I'd rather have been doing. And
it wasn't the most flattering fight, but and Rigo is rusty. Rigo is rusty. You know what I'm saying? But the Filipino dude, he was coming though. He was trying to bring the fight. He was trying to bring that fight.
He couldn't get near him. He didn't want to fight.
He tried. Rigo's just too skilled. You know what I'm saying? But he tried.
It wasn't skill, but
he tried to come at Rigo though. I remember when Rigo jumped out the way and that dude flew out the ring. That was so funny.
Well, I could just tell you about half the crowd at Mandalay Bay decided that was a really good time to go to the bar.
Yeah, because they're more about Mexican fights, you know, toe to toe.
Media section, all of us in the media section are like, oh my God.
You know. Hey, I like my boy Rigo. He's a master. But I didn't. It absolutely wasn't the most flattering fight. There was a lot of clinching and all of that. But you know, it was come find me fight. Let's say peekaboo.
But here's my point. If I'm Donaire and
I would love to see him and Donaire go at it again. I've said that all along.
You're right. If I see that, I think, hell yeah, he did it. He looked really rusty. He looked bad. Now's the time for me to go back and get him before he gets back up to speed. Let's get that fight on. I think if Donaire wins,
a tricky dude, though. He's a very tricky guy. So
he is. He's got a lot of oddball tricks in his arsenal.
A lot of tricks.
And you know what? They work for him. That's great. He's never going to get a big payday, and he's never going to be the main event. If he chooses to fight like that.
I'm a Rigo fan, so I'm rooting for him to get a big payday. He has to help us, man. You got to help us, Rigo.
Oh my God!
Let's bring Daniel.
Right, so when the day comes where it's Donaire Rigo 2, you and I have to have a conversation, and we're gonna have.
For Rigo.
Okay, I got Donaire. All right,
I love Donaire. I love him. He's my boy.
No, me and Donaire, we're gonna come after you too.
Let's bring Daniel into this discussion here about Nonito Donaire, his fight coming up tomorrow. What do you think, Daniel?
First off, I agree with Gail. This should not be for a world title. This should not be for a world title. And frankly, like I said, I have mixed opinions with Donaire, fortunately. Personally, to me, he hasn't been the same since Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux, to me, ruined him. He ruined him. And in a sense, he hasn't been the same, and especially after getting dropped by Walters. You're not going to impress me, or at least not me, with, okay, now you go to the Philippines to beat a couple of fringe guys, and now you're getting a title shot, like I said, with the WBO, which seems to be the favorite sanctioning body of Top Rank at the moment. And personally, I said he probably would win. I hope, like I said, if he looks really good while doing it, that's great, and that means he's fully recovered. If he doesn't look good while doing it, unfortunately, to me, then it would be like, yeah, you should hang it up. Donaire, you've done a really good job. You've done excellent things for boxing. You're good with your community. Like I said, you're the first guy to do 24/7, 365 testing with VADA, something that to me should be standard in all boxing.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and the main issue that I'm going to have is if he doesn't look good, it's not going to look good to impress him, because look at the fights that are coming in right now at 122. You're not going to face Frampton because Frampton's with Heyman. Quigg, if the fight with Frampton and Quigg looks really good, they might just do a rematch. Santa Cruz is with Heyman. The only other logical fight that you can make right now at 122 that I can think of at the top of my head that HBO would be forced to make because they have to deal with Rock Nation is Rigondeaux. It's Rigondeaux again. And quite frankly, do I want to see Donaire be ruined again by Rigondeaux?
You think he'll be ruined though? I think he'll hold. I think this is gonna be a closer fight than you think. It's gonna be a closer fight than you think. It's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. And,
I'm serious. I'm serious, man. I'm serious.
I think the sooner the better for Donaire getting on after Rigo, because Rigo didn't look good.
I mean, I'm just saying. That's a good fight, man. That's a good fight. I've been saying it all along.
I think it is a good fight for both of them for different reasons. It's the right fight to be made.
Yeah. Because Rigo fell off the grid after the Donaire fight. And Donaire, well, he won a world title afterwards, and then he faced Walters. And to me, he was putting up a decent fight against Walters, all right, for a couple rounds. And then Walters started to take over. But, I mean, Donaire's, I just want to see him because he's the guy that takes the risk. He's the guy that takes the chances. And I think he should be rewarded for that.
Plus, HBO has always really, really liked Nonito and his team. They get along great. He's done great things for them. And the HBO crew isn't real happy with Rigo. Rigo stunk up the joint. on the Cotto Canelo undercard.
I wish Rigo had went with Heyman, but it's all good.
But you know what?
Rigo would have been the next
Rigo's
sensation,
really
man.
irritated. You know, Rigo, that was such a buzzkill of a fight, was the bottom line. And HBO did not need people getting pissed off about this boring fight, right?
But look,
right
Arislandi Lara just brought down the house wherever he was fighting Jan Zavik, and he actually fought him toe to toe as well. And I'm just saying, if Guillermo Rigondeaux had only, I don't know what's the deal with him and Heyman, but I guess he has an agreement with something. He seems to be in some kind of contractual obligation to somebody. Otherwise,
he's had big contract fights. That's why we haven't seen him. It's just been a mess. And he wanted out. They didn't want to let him out. They wanted payoff money. I mean, it was a big. They were both standing their ground, and it hurt him. And he stayed in good shape. He's trained. He's very disciplined. That is not the same as being in the ring.
Absolutely.
Under the lights. So here he is. He puts on that fight. HBO's really irritated.
And last-minute opponent as well.
Yeah.
Last-minute opponent. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me a bit if HBO went to him and said, listen, you owe us to fight Donaire, a fight that the public will want to see. You need to play along here, Buster, to resurrect yourself and your opportunities with us, because you got a lot of explaining to do after that last fight. Donaire is the one fight that I'd like to actually see, Rigo in the ring with him. I can't even think of another opponent I would cross the street to see him fight right now. Not right now, anyway.
I have no problem seeing him fight anybody because, like I said, he's so small. The dude is little, and he, like Pacquiao, this little guy, I mean, he schools these bigger dudes, man. It's crazy. So I'd like to see it. I'd love to see it.
If you can stay awake in between punches. I mean,
it's only been one.
Punch count was about the same as Klitschko's. They were pretty damn close.
Hey, man,
ridiculous.
I can't defend that, but I could say though, his next fight is going to be more exciting, especially if it's Donaire, because Donaire is going to come.
Well, it's not a very high bar, to cross. Okay, his next fight is more exciting. Paint drying would be more exciting.
I would love to see that though.
Yeah, I want to move on and combine a couple of fights into one here because we're a little bit pressed with time. But as far as Rigo, of course it will be a more exciting. He has no choice at this point. His popularity is not that great. I'm a Rigo fan too, but coming off of that performance, he has to do better because he is better. What you need, he's better than that. Absolutely. You and I both know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Even his biggest apologist, Max Kellerman, was pissed at him. What's that?
Well, Max Kellerman couldn't say anything. What is he going to say?
Oh yes, he did during the fight. Oh yes, he did. Yes, he did. Okay. He let him have it.
Yeah, I want to combine two fights into multiple fights here. Saturday, PBC card, I believe. Omar Figueroa is fighting Antonio DeMarco, which is a fight I just think is going to be a stinker because Figueroa, he mixed with ugly fights, but also Chris Arreola, who in training, I got to give him credit, he looked very well, slimmed down, he's trimmed down, he's fighting Andy Kauffman. I'm going to open up and please try to be short as you can with your commentary. Figueroa, DeMarco, Arreola, Kauffman, what you guys think?
The one fight there I want to see is Arreola. Arreola wants back in this new heavyweight landscape something fierce. He knows he's got a lot to prove. His last two fights have been questionable, especially the last one, and he looked terrible. The fight prior to that was wildly entertaining with Chris Harper, but they were both in terrible shape. They both weighed north of 260 pounds, both of them. Now he has really peeled off the weight. He's gone and sequestered himself up at the summit in Big Bear. He's working out there. He's been able to strip off the weight. He must be doing road work, which he hates with a passion. But when he's motivated enough, he'll do it. He'll lay off the cerveza. They probably locked the door to the Hacienda restaurant across the street so that he couldn't go drinking, and he looks good. So he's motivated, and a motivated Chris Arreola can be really dangerous. So I hope he looks good. I hope he does well, for his own sake. And, that makes him a very interesting opponent for a lot of guys out there. Here we are talking about who should Wilder fight. You got Dominic Breazeale out there. Chris Arreola wants to get in the hunt, and it's all going to depend on what he does this weekend. Figueroa, I like Omar a lot. I like his ethic. I like his drive. I do think it's going to be a messy fight. And the truth is, it's the weekend where a lot of people are going to be out doing stuff for the holidays, going to their, Christmas parties and going to the office. It's only the hardcore of us really going to be watching this weekend. And the action really is all across the pond this weekend.
Yep, absolutely.
Daniel, what you need? Your thoughts on these two bouts?
Absolutely, man. Chris Arreola, I wish him the best. His last two fights were kind of tough. So hopefully this guy, Travis Kauffman, it becomes an easier fight for him. You know what I mean? Because he's been having some difficulty tracking down his opponents, especially Fred Cassie. Fred Cassie was difficult anyway. He gave a good fight to Dominic Breazeale. But Travis Kauffman, I don't know too much about Travis Kauffman. Seems to be an experienced boxer. Only one loss. He's been knocked out once. So we'll see what happens with that. Kaufman's kind of young as well. 30 years old.
I'm not sure how old he is.
Yeah, he's 30 years old. But the other guy, Omar Figueroa, I like Omar Figueroa. I don't know. I've been kind of a fan of him since the Kell Brook versus Sean Porter fight where he fought and stopped also his opponent. He had a bust-up face and everything. It was a good fight.
That was that was a great fight. I was there, and it was one of those things where he got cut really badly and knew
he was going to be stopped.
He had a best around to close out the show, or it was going to be stopped on the cuts. And with as busted up a face as he had, that fight was at StubHub. And a lot of the fighters after their bouts come out and kind of hobnob with the crowd. They make the rounds. Figueroa had every reason to call it a night, go get stitched up, and go home. Nope. He came right back out, greeted fans, took pictures. He looked terrible. He had tape all over his face. He was bruised. He was just beat to hell. He didn't care. He eventually sat up with some guys I thought were his friends. No, they were just a bunch of fans and said, hey, come sit with us, and he did. You gotta love a guy like that. Yeah, it's great. Just great. Yeah, he'll give it his all. I like him.
Yeah, I like how if he can't get you on the outside, but because he switches from southpaw to orthodox, that kind of thing. If you can't that boy will get his head up in your chest, and he will dog you, man. He got dog in him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he'll do whatever it takes. He's not afraid to get right in there, and
he's like, if I can't beat you by boxing, I'm gonna beat you somehow. But I'm gonna beat you. He got that will to win.
Young guy.
Yeah. So I want to see what DeMarco can do against him. Hopefully they don't have that atrocious referee back refereeing those fights once he's out of there.
Don't mention his name.
Nope.
I'm not gonna mention. I'm not gonna mention it.
Your favorite.
Oh my God. So yeah, but other than that, I'm looking forward to it. People said DeMarco is not done, so I want to see what DeMarco can do against Figueroa. This is still interesting to me. I like it. I like that fight.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
All right. With these two fights, well, first of all, let's say what Arreola is pretty much nowadays, and I've called him this for a bit. He's everybody's fat cholo friend.
Wow.
Especially that guy, this really big guy. He's a cholo. He's down, but he will fight you. That's Arreola. He's the fat cholo friend. In fact, that weird overhand right he throws, I call that the cholo punch.
Well, and he is the guy you want to go hang with because he'll go drinking with you anytime. He'll hang out. He's fun. He loves to chat. Yeah, he's damned entertaining, no question.
Very
Yes.
honest. I like his honesty.
I actually talked to him
He's
actually
honest,
in
yeah.
2007. I talked to him in 2007 when there was actually an ESPN Friday Night Fight cards out here in Long Island when they were building him up. I got to talk to him. He's a real cool dude.
Yeah, he is. He's a lot of fun.
Interesting fight because today's press conference was pretty heated.
You know, I haven't seen it. I'll have to check that out. Very interesting. Really? Okay. Good deal.
Yeah, so this one might actually have a really good fight coming in. And let's face it, this is pretty much Chris Arreola's last road to a possible world title shot.
Absolutely, yeah. It's his swan song. If he can't do it, that's it.
Yep. Figueroa, this is my thing with this fight. Antonio DeMarco has retired twice. And each time Heyman gives him money and then he doesn't look good. Like the last fight he had was against Bartholomew.
Yeah.
He didn't look good. Now you're going to throw him against Figueroa. He may look better this time against Figueroa because the concept of defense is something that Figueroa doesn't know anything about. So DeMarco might land a few punches here and there. But Figueroa's just going to probably smother him with volume. And Figueroa's a little weird to me. I think his best days are actually behind him because he gets into these wars. And he just gives it all out. And because he doesn't really have much of a defense, he takes as much as he gives. So he already may be on the downward side coming in. He's a young guy. So it's an interesting fight. It's a fight at 140. It's a division where the only logical title fight that is available for him is Adrian Broner. And quite frankly, I don't think, even if he wins outstandingly, I don't think he'll deserve a shot at Adrian Broner right now. But who knows? Like I said, if I'm tuning in for that fight, I'm going to tune in for the Arreola fight because those two have bad intentions towards each other now. And that, compared to the last two fights Arreola was in, hopefully this one will be a lot better.
Daniel, I gotta read you this quote. I gotta read you this quote from Arreola. There's a very good article, very good interview in Dan Raphael's blog on ESPN.com, and the final quote from Arreola is, "The fact that Kauffman wants to fight me makes sense, because he thinks I'm done and that I party too much. After this Saturday, I'm going to party after I beat him down." Love it. Bring it on.
Absolutely. Let's focus on fights taking place in London. Headlined, of course, by the grudge match between Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. On the undercard, Chris Eubank Jr. fighting Spike O'Sullivan. I'm going to open up to everybody here. Joshua Whyte, a lot of bad blood going in. Got pretty heated during the final press conference today. The face-off was very interesting as well. Bad blood between the two, particularly from Dillian Whyte's end. A lot of this stems from the fact they fought as amateurs in 2009. Whyte ended up winning. I believe he knocked down Joshua in that fight. Whyte thinks basically, personally, that Anthony Joshua is a bit of a fake. He's not authentic. So yeah, bad blood in there. And Chris Eubank fighting Spike O'Sullivan. Look, O'Sullivan, he has a cocky style, but he does some decent things in there. But I think Eubank Jr. beats him. I just think he's overall a more talented fighter. I also think he's a physically bigger fighter, even though O'Sullivan is a taller guy. I just think Eubank Jr., much like Peter Quillin, I got some beliefs that he has some issues making the weight. So, discussion: Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte, Chris Eubank Jr., Spike O'Sullivan. What do you guys think?
Yes.
And unmute your mics, everybody. Anybody can chime in.
This fight is gonna be good because like you mentioned, Mike, the bad blood between these two is legitimate. They do not like each other, particularly Whyte when it comes to Joshua. And like I said, like EJ Live said on this very podcast a few weeks ago. Like I said, Whyte told Joshua, "Hey, we can step into this closet and we can handle this right here." That's how bad this blood is between these two.
Oh,
So it's
it's
a very interesting thing because there's a risk with Joshua. If he loses, if Joshua loses, or even worse, gets knocked out, his entire path to the world title gets completely thrown off. It's an Amir Imam type situation, except this time the opponent is credible as it pertains to him.
I think the opponent is credible. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is dangerous for Joshua if there's a risk of losing. I don't think the risk of losing is very big. I think Whyte is very defensive for a good reason. He's got a chip on his shoulder for a good reason. And sometimes that makes a guy so red hot, white hot in the mind, they can't focus. He needs to settle down. If he's just going to go in there madder than a wet hen, without a game plan, without being focused about what he needs to do, he's not going to get the job done. I think Joshua will take care of him. But after having seen what happened with Fury, after having seen what happened with Jacob, none of us are calling a sure thing, I don't think. Not right now. So it's going to be a good fight to watch, and that bad blood is definitely real. Definitely real. That stare down today was one of the longest, prolonged, mean son of a bitch, I'm going to kick your ass stare downs. No nonsense. It was just full on, and finally it got broken up. It was intense. It starts being uncomfortable to watch. It's going on so long. That's what that fight's going to all be about.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember, but I told you guys that Fury moved very well and that Klitschko had to go to the body. I don't know if you guys remember that from a previous hangout we had. But with this fight, Dillian Whyte fights off the back foot really well. So that's something you guys may want to factor in. Have you ever seen Anthony Joshua fighting off the back foot? Has he ever had to have a reason to be fighting off the back foot against an opponent? I know he can walk his opponent down. Okay? But he don't take much return fire. Now hear this one, folks. Dillian Whyte will hit Anthony Joshua. So the question you guys want to know, if Anthony Joshua could take a punch, we're going to know that in this fight. Guaranteed. Okay? The other thing about Dillian Whyte is he's very crafty as a boxer. He sets up his knockouts. He sets up his punches. This guy's a boxer. Just like Anthony Joshua sparred Vladimir Klitschko, so did Dillian Whyte. He was in his last camp. So you guys have to understand, this is not an underdog coming in here. This is a skilled boxer coming in to fight another skilled boxer. And a lot of truth is going to be told in this fight. So that's all I got to say about that information I observed. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, to your point, and the other thing that you're not mentioning, what you need is, while Joshua is the taller guy, I think the arm length is I think in Whyte's advantage. I think.
Yeah, he's longer reach.
Right, so I think he can get to Anthony Joshua with some shots. With that power, I mean, the two things I will keep saying it. The two things we don't know about Joshua is his stamina long term, his ability to take punishment, and I just think that, look, I think ultimately at the end of the day, Joshua will win, but I think to Gail's point, he's going to face some dangerous moments in there because I think that Whyte is a better boxer than people are giving him credit for. I think his jab is a little bit better than people are giving him credit for. And I just think with that long reach, with them long arms, I think he can get to Joshua with some shots. And if he does, you never know.
Yeah, and he's a counterpuncher as well. So if he can rile up Anthony Joshua to go hunting him down, that works in his favor.
Yep.
Indeed.
Oh, and Mike, well, we talked about on Sunday, we mentioned how Joshua was built. Joshua's built a little bit like a football player.
Right.
And when you have, like I said, when you have that type of body, stamina sometimes becomes an issue. If Dillian Whyte's able to take Anthony Joshua to deep waters.
That's why he was saying you knock him out in the 8th.
Yeah, like I said, if he takes him to the deep waters, he may be more susceptible. Like I think I said, like the best example I could think of an American right now that had the same issues. People were building him up, and then once he got hit and once the stamina was exposed, he pretty much pushed off the map. But Mitchell.
Yeah, he could chop him down to the body. Those body shots gonna make a big difference in this fight. So yeah, it's very, very possible. And Dillian Whyte comes in at angles too.
Right. So I think we're gonna start shutting the show down on that note. I'm gonna go around the panel here and ask everybody else to give their information. I'll start with you, Gail. Gail, Falcon Communities Digital News. For folks who want to talk boxing, Game of Thrones, dogs, anything else, let the folks know where they can find you.
You bet. My regular column is for Communities Digital News, a digital native news site, which is COMM, C-O-M-M, Digi, D-I-G-I News, comdiginews.com. You'll find me there. You can find me on Twitter and everywhere else as PR Pro San Diego. And let me also remind you, we won't talk about it, but we'll recap it later. We have the U.S. men's Olympic boxing trials going on right now in Reno, Nevada, and it is going to stream online on NBC Sports. They will be in the final rounds tomorrow and on Saturday. We've got some interesting folks in these final brackets. First and foremost is probably a guy that a lot of you have heard of, Cam F. Awesome, a.k.a. the Taylor Swift of boxing, who's in the heavyweight class. He's a riot. Follow him on Periscope and Twitter and Instagram. Absolutely worth your time. I would also highly recommend keeping an eye on a flyweight who's 18, whose name is Shakur Stevenson. Yes, he's named after Tupac. He's a fiery little guy, and it's nice to see an American in one of the small leagues making some noise. He's a good, flashy little guy. I hope he does well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good looking out for us, the amateur stuff. I'll go to you. Daniel joined us from NY. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let folks know where they can find you and talk about Inscriber as well as your show on SoundCloud.
All right, yeah. Like I said, you can find me on Twitter at Raucus99. Like I said, I do tweet a lot, so like I said, if you have questions, you can come at me. And on SoundCloud, yes, we do have a podcast with me and the folks at over for Boxing News. We tend to have it every Sunday. We post it up, I think, every Monday or Tuesday for you guys. We do the students things. We talk the latest topics. We find out any breaking news that's happening within the week in boxing, and we go, like I said, we just give our perspective on it. And they said, check out last week's show. Mike was on it. We had a lot of fun in that one.
Indeed. Once you need, join us live from Trinidad. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where we can hit you up and mention multiple series going on right now.
Yeah. What you need, you can find me on YouTube at the name that you see right in the right-hand corner here, What You Need, WATTUNEED. And willing to work with anybody who talks boxing. I just love boxing, not MMA, but boxing. I love boxing now. I just want to discriminate between the two, all right? And any channel, any person you want to work with that, I love speaking about boxing. There are a number of series I have out there, but which one I like? I like the ones boxers not much talked about. Of course, there's Floyd Mayweather TBE, and there's also Jose Luis Castillo versus Roberto Duran. I really supposed to bring that on a long time ago. I have it ready. I'm going to put it up. So you guys will see that as well. The other thing I've got also for you guys is also a number of different little references to other channels on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely.
Which you can actually learn about boxing from. They actually teach boxing. So I've had that over and over again, and I will continue to do that to promote the sport of boxing and different people. I also would like to promote your channel, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Mike, as well as Daniel's channel, as well as Gail's channel. So if you have your information, just send it to me to the links. I'll actually mention you in my videos.
Okay, cool.
Very much.
I'll do it. I'll do it while I'm off there when the show's over with. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else with me, y'all know what it is. Brother JR on Twitter, Brother JR at Brother JR76. If you want to find out more information about Pound for Pound Boxing Report, just go to the blog page, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. Just look to the right of the blog page, and you will find links to find us all over social media, all over the internet, all over the interwebs. On the next episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report, and good chance it will be the final episode of 2015. I'm subject to change, but it looks like next week will be the last episode of 2015. We will do a recap of Nonito Donaire's bout, Figueroa DeMarco, the Arreola bout, as well as the grudge match between Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. Oh, I forgot Chris Eubank Jr. I forgot to mention him. Quickly, guys, quickly. Your assessment of his fight with Spike O'Sullivan.
Should win. I don't think he's going to distinguish himself, but he should win.
Daniel, quickly.
Same thing, yeah. Eubank should win. It should be a little center win, but then again, like I said, this is for one of the 5 WA belts in the same division. So, like I said, it's pretty much it's just a showcase fight at this point. It's just a showcase for whoever wants to face maybe the Lee Saunders loser coming up. But that's pretty much about it.
Quickly, what you need, your assessment of Chris Eubank Jr. and Spike O'Sullivan.
No comment.
Back to my comments. So back to ending the show, we will do a recap of the Donaire bout: Figueroa DeMarco, Arreola Kauffman, Joshua Dillian Whyte, Chris Eubank Jr., Spike O'Sullivan, and we will do a preview of Ortiz and Brian Jennings. We will do a preview of Billy Joe Saunders, Andy Lee. On the Ortiz Jennings undercard, we got the Axeman. He's returning to the ring.
Yes.
Showcase.
Dennis Shafakov, he's going to be fighting Ramses Bartholomew, and I think a pretty intriguing lightweight bout. We will talk about that, and we may, if it is indeed the last episode of the year, I'm still thinking about it, we may do a year-end, I was going to say rear-end, I'm sorry about that, a year-end recap of boxing in 2015.
We're going to back into that year-end recap.
Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. So, for Gail, for What You Need, for Daniel, for Joe and Sean who joined us earlier, I'm your host, Michael. This has been another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. We will see you next time. You guys have a good evening. Good night.
Peace.
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 Good night.